Cruising is getting more expensive every year, and while there's still many ways to save money, some old tricks just don't work anymore. But don't worry, I've got you covered. With 20 years of cruising experience, I'm here to share 19 money-saving hacks that actually do work today, plus 3 outdated tips you need to avoid. And if you have any other additional tips to share, leave them in the comments. I'd love to read some more great ideas on how to save money on cruising. We'll start with a very popular tip that does not work any longer. And that is, in the past, you could easily find great deals just by waiting to the last minute. Nowadays, not so much. With more people turning to cruising, demand skyrocketed, and many sailings are filling up a lot earlier, especially for popular itineraries. So instead of waiting for a deal that likely won't come, it is better than ever now to book early. Now there's one exception, and that is after the final payment date, which is usually within 75 to 120 day window, and that's going to depend on the length of sailing and the cruise line. Prices sometimes can drop. But you do need to be flexible on schedule and be prepared for higher travel costs if you have to buy airline tickets. By the way, if you find this video helpful, hit that like button to let me know. If you've built up loyalty points with one cruise line, don't assume that you have to start from scratch if you decide to try a new cruise line. Some lines now offer status matching, where they recognize your loyalty tier from another brand and they grant you some perks. For example, we just received status match on MSC and Virgin based on our diamond status with Royal Caribbean. So for our first cruises on both lines next year, we're already starting out with a mid-level tier that has some discounts on onboard perks. I believe that travel insurance is extremely important, and since cruising is very different from land vacations, I will be making another video about how to choose the best travel insurance for your cruise and specifically what to look for to make sure you're covered. So if you're interested in that, hit the subscribe button so you can see when that video comes out. However, here I want to mention that it is best to skip the insurance that the cruise line offers and buy a dedicated travel insurance plan. I've compared many different plans, and by far, the insurance that comes with the cruise booking is usually a lot more expensive and offers a lot less coverage. A third-party travel insurance policy usually offers better protection, from medical insurance to trip interruptions to lost baggage, and those are the costlier expenses. Facebook can be a goldmine when you're hunting for deals. You can join groups dedicated to your specific sailing. All you have to do is search the ship's name and the date in Facebook, and you will see one or more groups listed. And then join the largest one, and you will have a community of people that share tips and news that you'd have to monitor many different places to see. So it's kind of like having hundreds of eyes on the lookout for price drops for items in a cruise planner, alerts when things like dining and entertainment open up for booking, and any announcements from the cruise line. Next is another tip that doesn't work anymore. I do have an alternative for you, but it's not as good as the original. Free cabin upgrades used to be a perk of cruising, but not these days. Cruise lines have streamlined their operations to maximize their revenue, so complimentary upgrades are a lot less frequent, especially if you booked a budget cabin. Instead, many cruise lines now offer bid-based upgrades like Royal Up on Royal Caribbean, where you can submit a bid to upgrade your room. Cruise lines transfers from the airport to the port may sound convenient, but they're usually overpriced. Often you'll find cheaper options with taxis, ride shares, or independent shuttles. Plus, using these alternatives can mean fewer delays because you don't have to wait for an entire bus to fill up before you get moving. Now, between those options, as a general rule, in most US ports, for 1 or 2 people, shuttles are going to be more economical. And for 3 or more people is when ride shares will start winning cost-wise. If you're driving to the port, don't go for the convenient option of port parking because it's always going to be the most expensive option. We've cruised from every cruise port in the US, and all of them have off-site parking lots nearby with free shuttles, and some were less than half the price of parking at the cruise port. And if you do decide to go that route, make sure to book ahead to guarantee you a spot, because we've made that mistake once, thinking that we can just drive up and pay for parking, and they were completely full. If you need to stay overnight before you cruise, some hotels will offer park and cruise packages. I think there's less of them now than 10-15 years ago, so you need to look for them. But these packages let you park your car at the hotel for the duration of your cruise, and often for less than what you would pay at the port. With those packages, the hotels will provide a shuttle service to take you right to the terminal, so this option is both budget-friendly and convenient. Onboard internet can be really expensive, and I have a whole video on how to save money on the internet and get the best connection at sea, and I will link it here and in the description. But I'll give you 2 tips in this video. Prepaid Wi-Fi packages have lower price per day, but unless you need connection 24/7, you can save money if you don't buy the package. First of all, the package will charge you for the first day on a cruise when you don't leave the port until 5 or 6 p.m. So you already have your regular cell phone provider internet for most of the day. Majority of ports will have coffee shops, restaurants, and even some public areas near the port with free Wi-Fi. Another way we save on internet on all our cruises is by using the International Day Pass when we're in port all day. For example, with AT&T, we activated a $10 per day plan that lets you use unlimited talk, text, and internet in many countries. And this option is a lot more affordable than paying the cruise line for just 1 day of internet. Just make sure to verify your phone company's coverage at the destinations you're sailing to, and be careful with any data limits or roaming fees for activities like streaming. The next tip is going to depend on your comfort level of traveling in other countries. Cruise lines always offer shore excursions, and while they're convenient, they're usually very expensive. Many people choose cruise-organized tours to feel safer and to make sure they get back to the ship on time. But booking directly with local providers can often save you 20 to 50%, and you end up with smaller, more personalized groups, which is a huge plus for a better experience. So we've tried both options, and we found a happy middle ground, and that is booking with reputable third-party providers that work with the same local tour companies that the cruise lines offer, but they offer them at a lower cost. The big plus for these companies is that they have back-to-ship guarantee, which helps if you're nervous about timing. I'll leave the links in the description if you want to check them out. A very popular tip of skipping the drink package and bringing your own drinks on board has become trickier lately. While it still works on some cruise lines, others recently started tightening their policies and limiting or even prohibiting the drinks you can bring on board. We currently cruise on Royal Caribbean the most, and they still allow you to bring 2 bottles of wine and a 12-pack of soda for a cabin, so we would normally not buy a drink package on these cruises. However, when we cruise on other cruise lines, especially if the drink package is not outrageously priced, it does make sense to buy it. If you don't want to splurge on a drink package, there's still many ways to save money when you're buying drinks on the ship. Here's one of them. Most cruise lines offer a drink special at a discounted price, and it will be a unique cocktail every day. Granted, these drinks of the day options are often the sugary concoctions that is not going to be for everybody's cup of tea or glass of fine aged cognac. But if you like those umbrella drinks, you can save money every day. Another good way to save on drinks is to get them in local bars and cafes when you're in port. However, that also will depend on your risk tolerance. We personally never drink water or any mixed drinks when we're outside of the US, and the one time I let my guard down in the last 10 years was at Paradise Beach in Cozumel earlier this summer, and I was sick for the next 2 days on our cruise. So we make it a rule to only order beer that they open in front of us, but many people love going to ports and enjoying other types of drinks that are a lot cheaper than cruise ship bars. Now, completely opposite to the last tip, when it comes to food, when you think about it, all the meals on the ship are already included. So when you go to port, it might be tempting to try some local restaurants, but you are spending money you didn't really need to. We found that eating a nice sized breakfast before heading out to the beach day or an excursion can save a lot of money over the course of a cruise. And if you really want to taste that local food, you can grab a small snack and then know that you have an all-you-can-eat buffet waiting for you as soon as you get back on the ship in a couple of hours. Here's one of our favorite tricks on saving money while splurging, and that is going to specialty dining restaurants for lunch. The lunch menus are usually a lot more affordable than the dinner options, but they will still have their flagship menu items that are available on the condensed menu lunch. So if there's a restaurant you've been waiting to try, consider making a lunch reservation instead. We always make sure to pack up some common medications like pain relief, allergy meds, stomach relief, and all you need is a small stash of common over-the-counter medicines, and it can really save you both money and a headache, literally. We've learned this the hard way after needing some simple pain reliever that ended up costing us more than a fancy cocktail on a ship. And if you forget to bring any medicines or any personal items, it's better to buy them in port than on the ship. Most of the time, the shops on the ship have very high markups on essentials, so grabbing what you need during a port stop can be a much more budget-friendly option. Many ports have pharmacies and convenience stores close by, and they'll have everything from sunscreen to toiletries at reasonable prices. Skipping port excursions completely and staying on a ship can be a huge money saver and a completely different experience. When most passengers are in port, you'll have access to a lot less crowded pools, lounges, and onboard activities without spending money on excursions. And this is especially great on larger ships that have plenty of entertainment options, so you can relax, skip the lines, and really enjoy the ship. Speaking of port days, if you want to splurge on some extra things like spas and restaurants, usually they're going to be cheaper when the ship is docked and most passengers are not on board. And we've saved money on all types of things like massages, escape rooms, and thrill rides just by booking them for port days. If you love snorkeling and have a couple port stops where you can do it, consider bringing your own snorkeling gear. We've done that on a number of our cruises and loved having our own equipment that we didn't have to worry about if it was sanitized properly, and it was definitely a lot better quality than the cheaper rental stuff you normally get. And when it comes to ports, the most important tip you can have is research it ahead of time and have a good but flexible plan. In every port, you can find affordable activities that you don't have to book an excursion for. Many ports will have beaches, landmarks, and local transportation that you can explore on your own. At the same time, you want to make sure that you research the safety in the area and know of any places you should not be going. If you don't have time to do your homework for a port you've never been to, then booking an organized excursion would be a safer option even if it costs more. In the end, saving money is not as important as being safe. Now, all of these tips help you save money when you're on your cruise. But if you would like to learn how to save money when booking your cruise, then watch this video next. I will go over 5 popular cruise tips that are still repeated everywhere and explain why they may cost you more money overall or even ruin your vacation.